The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
What's up, Pistons fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Buffs on podcast. We are back without Amit, just me, Gabe, and Coni here today, but we're back with big news, guys. Monty Williams was fired this morning.
Yippee!
Monty Williams is no longer the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. This comes just about a week after we found out Troy Weaver will not be returning with the Pistons. It's a new front office. It's a new coaching staff. You know, I think my hopes just might be up again, folks. I think the optimism might be through the roof again, folks. But how we want to do this today is just we want to just break it down, you know, like Monty Williams' time here, his tenure, what went right, if anything, what went wrong. We'll discuss some potential candidates or perhaps some candidates that we like personally. But guys, I know you were voicing some opinions before we even started recording, so I guess I'll shift right over to you, Coni. Monty Williams has been fired. What's your initial reaction?
I mean, I'm just happy, and it's like guilt-free happiness because like usually like, oh man, a guy got fired. I don't want to like take joy in his pain, Schadenfreude.
Yeah,
But
Schadenfreude.
he's gonna be spending the next 4 years making $60 million to do nothing. And I think that's just the best case scenario. He wanted to take a break from basketball, right? Before he came here. We gave him $80 million, and now he gets to take his break from basketball while being one of the highest paid coaches in the NBA, not the coach. But I mean, I thought this past year, there's really no other way to describe it other than a disaster, right? Because we were talking about hope last year, and we just came out of it, and this season just slowly, bit by bit, that hope was just beaten out of us. And I think a lot of it, I mean, some of it is obviously the roster construction, the players, the way that they were, but a lot of it, or at least a good part of it, has to be placed on Monty Williams and the way this team was played. Like some things that are just coming to mind, like top of my head now, like starting Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey for a good portion of the season, where once we cut Killian Hayes, there was no inkling. There was no team that picked him up, and there was no inkling of rumors that a team would pick him up. There was absolutely nothing about Killian Hayes until now, where he's now on the French team. So maybe we did get that wrong, but I doubt it. And then just the use of Asar Thompson for a large portion of the season. I think Asar Thompson is easily a top 10 rookie in this class. I mean, biased opinion, top 5 rookie. But the way that he was used, the way that his minutes were like just dragged around, really took him out of that all rookie team race. I think that was largely Monty, you know, like placing. Asar is probably one of the most dynamic not offensive players, dynamically athletic and like uniquely skilled offensive players that was just plopped in the corner for a lot of offensive possessions, which just accentuated his greatest weakness almost. So I thought he was just the wrong guy for this team. We can go more into it over that losing streak. Every single post game conference that would just piss fans off more and more. Like, we got to be better. We got to do more. Like, no urgency to like maybe we should stop losing. Just like we got to do better. We got to stick to the game plan. I thought he lost the locker room. Guys just weren't playing. Like, he didn't get the guys to play very hard. Which even at his worst, Dwayne Casey had those guys working. So I'm all around excited. I know I called this in the beginning of the off season, where sort of the pain of the season would wear off and eventually we'd come back to hope. But I'm gonna be regretting saying this, but I feel like there's a reason to hope again for this Pistons team. Yeah.
Shoot the Kool-Aid juice in my veins, man. Gabe, before I get over to you, I just want to like generally ask this question, like, what do you think about the timing of the decision? Now, before I say that, like, because there's a decent amount of time in between the firing of Troy Weaver and Monty Williams. You know, a coach was appointed in between, but like, does that like bring any concern to you? On top of that, like, I know even just yesterday I saw a social media post where Jalen Duren liked the comment or liked the post where it said Monty Williams is likely staying as Pistons head coach.
Oh.
Is there some concern there for you with like the timeline of when he was fired, because realistically to me, if that was in the head of Trajan Langdon to get rid of them, you would have thought he would have fired Weaver and Monty almost back to back or within like a day's break. But it's a pretty substantial break in between. I'm just wondering, like, just off the top of your head, does that bring any concern to you?
No, it doesn't, because for me, like as we went through the season, I was slower to like hate on Monty than a lot of people, and I think that's because Troy Weaver assembled this dysfunctional group of players. And so that's why for me it was easy to see that Weaver was gone right when he walked in the door. That was obvious, but then you need to assess, is Monty the right guy? And also, I'm sure Gores doesn't just want to eat that money. I'm sure he's like, all right, let's have a discussion here. And apparently, he went through the same like interview process that a new coach would go through with Langdon. So I think that's why it took a while. They didn't necessarily want to get rid of him, but like if you can't answer the questions right on what you want to change and improve next year, then yeah, you shouldn't be here. And Valley, like you said, the Jalen Duren, like I think the players did like him because I think he's a personal guy. Like, yes, he rubs some people the wrong way in Phoenix, but he is like a players coach, and I think he has like relationships with the players. And then eventually the way he uses them might wear thin on them. But I think, especially for a young team, seeing this guy as maybe like a dad figure, that it could be like a tough like person to get rid of again just after 1 year. Maybe you give him like 20 games next year, see where you're at. But understand, new face in the front office wants to get his guy in there, and I think it can only go up. Really,
Yeah.
I dare to say it can only go up.
I'll tell you, one guy he probably didn't rub off well here in Detroit was Jaden Ivey. And Jaden Ivey's probably sitting somewhere with a massive grin on his face right now because how many times have we said it, the hype we had for Jaden Ivey coming into this year, versus how this year actually went, very disappointing. Does that perhaps rejuvenate Jaden Ivey's chances? We'll touch on it in a second, but the new shooting coach, does that like rejuvenate his opportunity to play alongside Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren, perhaps? But Gabe, I don't know if that was the platform you're looking for to just sound off on Monty, but like, what were your initial reactions to it?
I was glad it happened, and like I said, I like that it took a while. But yeah, I'm glad it happened before the draft and before the team really comes back together and like restarts for next season. I I think he will have another NBA job, just because he's a name. But yeah, the way like Connie said, the most egregious thing was probably starting Killian Hayes over Ivy, and then
For anybody really, just start
yeah, a close second. Although he did look very cool in his new Instagram story.
Who?
Um,
William?
Killian, yeah, all
Um,
black.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way he used the star as well, like if even like all the fans, all the writers, like just use the star as a screener, get him like on the ball, let him do a little something, and he's just parked in the corner and like Cade playing as like the literally the only guy who can do anything in these lineups. Again, is that Weaver probably, but like the thing is, the reason I'm not crazy excited is I don't like the new names, which I'm sure we'll touch on. I don't know how many good names we can bring in here.
Oh, I like the new names. I like one
Who do you
in
like?
particular.
Like who's on the top of your, or I guess before that, value of anything else to add, and then let's
no, I think you guys touched on a lot of things. I mean, my initial reaction was like slight confusion because like how I said, I think there was like that time period that passed where I would have expected Monty Williams to get fired. Um, but no, it was quite a euphoric morning when I woke up to the notification, honestly. And then I think you guys touched on a lot of things that you said. I'd be happy to dive into the potential list of candidates that are on board right now. Should we get into that?
Yeah, like I think it's like that Gabe talked about it a lot, but just like that Trajan Langdon took the time to he had the chance to really sell the team on what he wanted to do, and the team just wasn't buying it. So I think that like the plan was to keep Monty in this place. I thought that like the reports were coming out that he was
It
gonna
seemed like it,
stay,
yeah.
but he had a plan. The front office did not agree with it. The front office, it seems like Trajan Langdon has a very clear plan for this team. Just based on what Monty has said about what his plans were last year, I think it is going to be more driven towards analytics and like shooting and 3-pointers, because that was a big part of Monty's thing, was like the numbers don't always tell the truth, and you got to get offense in different ways, and like posting Stu and getting 2-point buckets. Um, I think that shows something about the way that this team is gonna look to play and look to beat.
Let let's talk analytics. I mean, analytics point towards 3-pointers and buckets at the rim, but specifically 3-pointers. And a recent huge development with the Pistons has been the hiring of Fred Vinson. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Fred Vinson.
Fred Vinson, yeah, a shooting coach over from the New Orleans Pelicans, coming with Trajan Langdon, along with another assistant coach we'll touch on in a second. Vinson credited with completely rejuvenating and changing Lonzo Ball's jump shot, to the level where it was today. From that whack jump shot where you're shooting sub 30, into a plus 40% 3-point shooter in a revamped form. You look at guys like Herb Jones, who shot, Gabe, was it 50% from the free throw line in college? Turning them into like a reliable 3-point shooter. A lot of credit goes to a lot of the Pelicans' development comes from Fred Vinson. And when we plucked him over to Detroit, I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh shoot, this is pretty real." If we can get up more threes, he has the potential to really, I think, change that dynamic between Ivy and Cade if that 3-point shot becomes consistent. But there's one guy we're really thinking about when we talk about rejuvenated 3-point shooting. That's Asar Thompson. But really, you go up and down the roster on this thing. Even Stu out there. What do you guys think about the hiring of Fred Vinson and the other assistant, who I'm very sorry, I'll pull up his name right now?
I absolutely love it. I mean, like, I should talk about another podcast. Bill Simmons always talks about, why not just throw a bag? Fred Vinson comes in this like such high esteem as like everybody around the league is like, wow, this guy is a really good shooting coach, and he will make your shooters better. And it's just simple. It feels like almost like a 2K move. It's like, we're gonna get this guy, and our 3-point rating is gonna increase in our players. And if that's actually true, I don't know. It probably will be. He has a very good resume of making guys good shooters. But if it is true, like, that's just such a simple, like, not simple, but a move that anybody could think to make. Like, oh yeah, let's get a great shooting coach to make our guys better shooters. And I feel like if a certain guys just improve slightly, Jaden Ivey, for instance, I think you say Asar Thompson. I think this is huge for Jaden Ivey, because if Jaden Ivey can become a consistent 3-point shooter, it unlocks everything else in his game, and he becomes like a really dangerous player. If he can unlock his 3-pointer, then he becomes a lot more one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and the rest of his offensive game kind of falls off. So yeah, like you said, Stu, really around all of our guys, even Cade Cade was pretty dang good last year, but if this roster could just shoot a little better, it unlocks a whole lot of other stuff. So I love this move. This was a great move. A move that like indicates that this team is more serious about being good.
I just hope we don't fall into the same trap of getting our hopes so high up again, man. Because they're so high up again. Gabe, Fred Vinson.
Yeah, for me, this was the thing I was most excited about this offseason so far, even more than like Weaver gone and new GM and all that stuff. This guy, like, the Pelicans Reddit was pretty mad that he left. Like, they're like, this guy, like you said, Vali, Lonzo, even was his name Dante Cunningham a while ago? Remember that bald guy who was on the Pelicans?
Yep.
Anyway, also another Cunningham right there. But like, I really love this hire. Like you said, Connie, Ivy is probably the most important guy, but I'd probably argue Asar Thompson, because if he can't hit those corner threes, if he can't hit any range, which it looks like end of the season he might actually be doing that, I think it just makes everybody so much more valuable. And who knows, maybe they'll up some trade value for some guys who just like get pushed out of the rotation. But yeah, I love this move, and I don't know if we talked about it last pod because it's been a while. That Blackstone guy who's now our GM, right? He came from the Pelicans, so I think he's officially our GM now. And if this is like the first moves along with this with Monty, I think we're in pretty good hands here.
Yeah, we Michael Blackstone is his name. He did come over with him. Um, we can get into that, right now, or we can get into another time. Do you guys want to go over some of these potential candidates, early rumors we've had in terms of this vacant coaching position?
I'd like to go over one guy at least because I think it goes along with the Fred Vincent thing.
I think we'll hit the list, but start it off.
I mean, my number one guy I'd love to get is James Borrego. I know you guys aren't like you
Mhm.
guys weren't as excited about it as I was, but I think this guy would be a perfect coach for this team, and it seems like the team that Trajan Langdon is trying to build. He comes from the Spurs coaching tree. Off rip, that's a great note. He was under Popovich. He coached. He was an assistant at least one of those championship teams, and his like offensive approach kind of is based on that. It's motion, but it's about like simple reads. And like we look at Borrego's like record, it's not great. But with the Hornets, they had the sixth best offensive rating. And then when they fired him, they dropped significantly. I think they may have been last. Yeah, they were last. So he went from sixth to last when they fired James Borrego. He also has like a great reputation of making the most out of like lineups. Those Hornets teams, just like these Pistons teams, were not assembled in a great way. They did not have great positional coverage of different positions, but he made it work. And one thing he really made it work with is guards. And like what he does is he makes the job easy for guards. Like he makes it so that there's like a couple simple reads that they can make that are dynamic into different options. So it's like there's a lot of options that can end up, but the reads that the guard has to make are sort of simplified. And like guards that have like excelled under him, Kemba Walker had his only All NBA season under James Borrego. Devonte Graham got paid off of James Borrego, and he might not play another minute in the NBA next year. Terry Rozier had some huge seasons under him. Lonzo Ball developed massively under him, had some absolutely great seasons, and it's about like motion, constant motion, simple reads, like intricate off-ball movement, but simple reads for the head guards, which like in our case are Jaden Ivey, who has like you know for what he's good at, being like super athletic and quick first step, um, doesn't always read the game in the most complete way, and so that simplifying it for him and just making the job easier for Cade. Like you said, like under Monty Williams, Cade was doing absolutely everything. It was a heliocentric offense for a young point guard with a bad team around him, which just made the job very difficult for Cade. And I think this could make it much easier for him.
Much easier.
So like he's a really nice offensive coach that like has a system that involves like off-ball movement, which I think will. I mean, Asar Thompson is an outstanding off-ball mover. We got rollers in Jalen Duren, um, and if the shooting comes along, and I assume the shooting will continue to come along with the off-season moves, um, what it seems like Trajan Langdon wants to do, I think I would love James Borrego just to get a nice offense out here. You know, get some enjoyable basketball to watch,
How long's
moves
it
that
been?
we actually want to tune into. Um, I'd love to see that. But
When
James Borrego, I'm already
Yeah,
in.
I'm quite sold on Borrego, and that was the initial report. One thing I want to touch on, I think it'll be really interesting to see with throughout this hiring process with all of our candidates is the Lakers currently have a vacant position. I think that's a lot more known around the NBA. Um, Candidates are perhaps going to have to choose between Detroit or LA, which on paper people would go LA, but hey, do you want to coach a playing team for 2 years and then LeBron retires? Or do you want to build a dynasty? I'm huge on Borrego, especially because you just sold me a little bit. He did coach some terrible Charlotte teams. I really don't think that
Yeah,
was his fault. But you look at his tenure there. He won 39 games. Next season only 65 games. They won just 23, but 33 after that, and then they went over 500 in his last year. They went 43 and 39. Um, yeah, a pretty bad team, but like you said, Connie, very good offensive team. It would just be a breath of fresh air to have a good offensive team around here. Gabe, what do you think about James Borrego?
I didn't know much about them ever. The Hornets were bad, but they were scoring, but they also have a terrible, terrible defense. But again, like their roster was not very good. The stuff you mentioned, Connie, makes me like say sure, why not? And again, like looking at the rest of the names, there's no one that really stands out. Besides like him as a name. I know Micah Nori, the Timberwolves like assistant, is a name. Chris Quinn. Other than that, there's just some other assistants around the league. So yeah, I'd be very happy with Borrego and just if we have a good offense, that would be fun, right? Like maybe not worst in the league defense, but just to have a good offense, I think would be a nice change of pace, and I think it would be good. Other than that, I don't have much else to add.
All right, so Connie came out and said Borrego. Is there a guy like in your head you think at top of the list, Gabe?
Um,
If not, I'm gonna put you on the spot. We can go through our list of candidates that we have, but I'm just wondering if there is somebody like instantly came to your mind. For me, I'll give you a little bit of time too. Like, I know this might be a bit obscure, but what about JJ Redick? Like, I don't have much reasoning there. He's never coached a basketball team, but he's really impressed with the Lakers. I think it looks like he might be the Lakers head coach, unless Monty swoops in there. Young guy. He was even linked to our president of basketball ops. So obviously, it's just an incredible knowledge for the game of basketball. And I just wonder if this young team needs like a young, but serious and fierce leader to take them there. And I think JJ Redick is, checks all those boxes. He was such a smart player when he played. Um, he's linked to a lot of these front office head coaching positions. Why not? I haven't even heard a rumor of him, in this Detroit position. Why not? Um, any thoughts about JJ?
Like, why would he come here? He makes a lot of money off his podcast. It seems like he's having a good time being a commentator.
I think we can get people money.
Yeah.
That's another question.
Linked to the Lakers job. He
Like
seems like a guy that would take the Lakers job. But
any coach that comes in, like we just gave Monty Williams this giant long deal and high paying deal. What kind of contract do you think Tom Gores is going to want to give out to these coaches?
probably less significant.
Then how are you going to get them to Detroit? I don't know. That's something to really keep an eye on. I think the length and then the amount of the contract. Gabe, anyone?
Chris Quinn is, he was in the cycle last time. I'd like that Heat connection. Eric Spoelstra's assistant since what, like 10 years now? He's obviously a smart guy. I think he'd be a good a good coach to have here. Defensive minded, move the ball, that type of basketball. But again, nothing really here.
All right, then let's we got a few more names on this list right here of 5 potential candidates. James Borrego was the first one. Gabe, your guy Chris Quinn there at number 2, but third in this list, I think is quite an interesting one. It's an ex-player as well. Sam Cassell, assistant with the Boston Celtics, who obviously just won their championship. Coach under Doc Rivers as well, if that means anything to you. Sam Cassell, another guy whose name has been thrown out there. Is there any reaction you guys have to hearing Sam Cassell's name, or is it not really?
I don't know much about what he would do as a coach. I just know that he's held in like high regard as an assistant, like really high regard, and it's like expected that he'll probably get a head coaching job at some point. So I wouldn't be mad at a Sam Cassell, but I can't really speak to it because I don't know that much about him as a coach.
Moving on to another candidate, then we have Big Johnny Bryant. He was the associate head coach with the with an excuse me, he was like the lead assistant with the New York Knicks, who obviously had a big season last year. He's been a guy that before the offseason really officially started, he's been a guy that was like, hey, maybe potential flyer here as a head coach. Are you interested in candidates like that who have been longtime assistants and perhaps could take that leap? Or are you looking for more of an established guy, like, or even briefly established, like a Borrego, like I don't know, somebody else? But like, what's your ideal candidate looking like?
I don't know, man. I trust in. I shouldn't say this because we got burned by our last GM. I trust in Trajan. You know, he's got a vision. And whoever he thinks is going to make that vision happen. It seems like okay, it seems he has a basketball vision. It seems like Troy Weaver's vision was like make a culture, but you can't really make a culture if you don't have if you don't have a basketball plan, right? It was all about like getting good guys in the locker room, getting like good personalities. But that's not a culture is not something that you can choose to make. It's something that is made when you play good basketball. And so if the plan is if the plan is based around how you want to play basketball with these guys, then whoever is hired, I'm all right with. But we're not coaching experts.
Just one last name on this list. I want to say because I think it's kind of interesting. Steve Nash. Instant no for me based on his Nets time, but it'd be an interesting one. Um, I don't know. Anything else you guys really want to say in terms of the coaching? I want to ask you guys if you have any like we talked about like memories, bad memories of Monty Williams. Anything that Troy has done in the past that makes you like dang, that was our GM. Because for me, it's when we initially got him in our first free agency period. Kind of remember me and you were in Montana together next to each other. We're like, what's going on? I think we signed Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Jaleel Okafor, maybe even like a Nerlens Noel in there. There was another big
DeAndre
man.
Jordan was in the mix for a brief
I
period.
think it might have been DeAndre Jordan. And we at a point in time had like six centers on our
Wayne
roster.
Dedman.
Dwayne Dedman, there you go. What did he do with all these guys? Stretch and wave or something, or something like that.
We were trying to justify that. We were like, he's got to have a plan. He's got to
He's
have
got
a
to have a
plan.
plan.
He didn't have a plan. And when he said, I'm not going to stop firing until the clip is empty, and then didn't make a significant move at any point.
I know. I think that was peak excitement for me as a Pistons fan because like just so unused to like moves being made and then hearing a guy be like with a track record of doing this and hearing a guy say that and then just to not at all deliver on his promises whatsoever was really disheartening. Um, I mean like Killian Hayes draft pick aside, like anything else that comes to mind? Gabe, you got anything?
I still like the draft with Bay, Stu, and Killian. That was an exciting draft, and then trading Bay for Wiseman was probably the worst move he made.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I still hate him for that. So yeah.
He loved getting centered.
You know what's hilarious? I saw the Wizards have a hole at their GM spot, and I heard the one guy, like the one candidate to fill it in is Troy Weaver. Might be pretty good. Um, all right. Anything
Well,
else you guys want to touch on?
I have a few new players all in the draft. I can ask you guys about how you feel.
Yeah, shoot. Draft prospects. What the draft is when? July.
next Wednesday.
Yeah, right when I'm flying, so I'm gonna miss it. When
No
I'm flying
kidding.
to Montana.
Ooh, we are a week out from the draft. We'll have to get
Yeah,
another pod out before the draft
yeah,
or
for
on
sure.
or on
A little
draft night.
death look,
But
but
week away from the draft, yeah, Gabe, take us through some more like perhaps last minute candidates.
so yeah, so there's noise around um Buzelis, Ricochet if he drops, the usuals. Klingon even has been picking up some steam at 5. I wanted to ask you guys about two guys that into like really recently made a video about and that I've really liked the fit, I think, on the Pistons as kind of like Derek White type two guards because Jaden Ivey, maybe he's a player, maybe he's not. So these guys are more just like solid defensive all around guys. Have you heard of either Devin Carter or Jared McCain?
Jared McCain, yes.
Yeah, on Duke, the freshman.
I've heard him only from his social media presence. I don't know anything about his game.
Yeah, he's 6'3", about 200, 6'3" wingspan, which isn't great. Average about 14 points, 5 rebounds though, and he might be the best shooter in the class. He shot 42% from 3.
There's a guy who shot 50 from 3.
Yeah, but like yeah, true. But like the way his mechanics look, the way he shoots, the type of shots he takes, he's absolutely elite 3-point shooter. He can also maneuver kind of in the pick and roll as like a secondary guy. he kind of has like I don't want to say Jalen Brunson because he's not just like shifty, but he has kind of like short guy, strong body type of game where he like puts it into the guy and then shoots. Um, and like I said, he's not very big, but like he knows how to use his size. He's like a good defender and rebounder. So I think he like on our team, if like he's the smallest guy, I think it would work.
Yeah, I since moving to North Carolina, the college. I'm not a huge college basketball watcher. I don't really enjoy it that much. But since moving down here, like obviously he played for Duke, and a lot of like people around here, there's always games on the TV. And I got to see a lot of like a good amount of Duke games, and I was always really impressed with the way Jared McCain played. Like very within himself, like does have that 3-point stroke, but is like you said, like Jalen, but like really crafty around the basket, using like both hands, like using real nice soft touch around the hoop, but also like using his body to like shield guys off, taking good angles. I enjoy Jared McCain.
Yeah, and I just think at 5, like he'd be a perfect like
What's
plug
he
in,
mock?
like I said, a Derek White type player, huh?
What's he at in mock drafts?
Probably late lottery, mid first, something like that.
Is that a guy you take at 5, or a guy you trade down for, or do you trade your pick down for, or would you be
Could
comfortable
trade
saying
down for
5?
him. He's gonna be
Yeah,
there.
I'd
in a
say
little more.
anything. I wouldn't go too far past 10.
I like the idea of drafting like a solid tweener, like a Derek White. Like obviously, maybe not realistically they turn out to be a Derek White, but I love the concept of drafting just like a steady hand to have next to Cade.
Yeah, especially a spacer and like a guy. Like I said, if we have a lot of size in our lineup, if Cade, you can shift him up to play 2s and 3s and stuff. So there's some room there. And Devin Carter was the point guard at Providence. He was a junior. Oh yeah. By the way, McCain is 20 years old. He's a one and done. Devin Carter's 3 years. He's 22 years old. He's a little bit older. He's 6'3" as well, 200, but with a 6'9" wingspan. And he has that type of like athleticism that looks like a caveman almost, like a monkey almost. Like he's just super like unorthodoxly like super strong, super athletic. And he took twice as many shots as he did last year, and he took twice as many shots in the year before. And he's upped his what do you say, efficiency like crazy amounts while taking like 100 more shots over the course of the season. Averaged 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, almost 40% from 3. And he looks really like funky when he plays, but like at the rate that he's improved and the level that he's at, and also I think he's probably the best defender in the class, pound for pound. So for him just being that 2 guard, I highly suggest you watch his breakdown on Hoop Intellect. Come on the pod if you're listening, Hoop Intellect. I've emailed him. He has not responded. But yeah, like I was in love with this guy. He can't like make like reads really, so he's not a point guard, but he can shoot. He's insanely athletic. He plays defense, and I think he has some of that like random ability to score 2-pointers. Like he just gets to the rim, can maneuver enough, and like just score and just like be more athletic than the other player. I suggest you look him up because I really like this guy. And I would take him at 5. I think, like I wouldn't even trade down because I think he's gonna be a riser on draft night.
Sheesh. All right. Couple of names to look out there. For us, like we said, the draft is just 1 week away now. This is a massive moment for the Pistons and also a massive moment for Trajan Langdon, and also in a way the head coach because he gets to welcome a new player. And I'm sure he'll have some say in that if we do hire one. But the first test for Trajan Langdon, which means no matter what he picks, he's probably going to get scrutinized by the fans. But it's going to be an exciting one. We'll see if we move up, down, stay at 5 and select. If we stay at 5 and select, who are we going to select? It's going to be quite an interesting one. But is there anything else you guys want to touch on here in this pod today?
I have a really quick yes or no if you guys want to.
Yeah, shoot quick.
I saw on Reddit, Ingram, like he wants a max, basically wants less than that. Like,
Yeah.
would you a 2+1 for Ingram.
I would give
Player
him
option
more than
max.
that. I'd max out
2+1, yeah.
Because then he comes off the
Max
books
him
and
out.
we have to pay people. I would too. I'm in the camp where I would too because he's a good player. And he's a good player, yeah. Five,
Yeah.
5-year max is scary, I think. Especially when you make like close to 70 million by the end of that for Ingram.
I like the short term. I say yes to short term, no to long term.
Yeah, he gets his money and then he can sign another long term, at the end of that. So I was just arguing with some guys on Reddit about that.
All right.
Whew.
Well,
Oh, I forget. Guess that Piston. I'll save it for next pod.
yeah, save it for
Yeah,
next
we'll do a big one next spot. All right, then. Like we said, draft coming up. Another chance to re-brighten this future along with this reshaping of the front office. So I think we can officially say again, guys, throw the buffs on Detroit. The future is bright.